going to get started. How's everybody doing today? Welcome to Saturday. Welcome to the Tech Symposium. Anybody get a chance to view any of the other talks? Yeah? Engaging, or are you really roughing it out right now?
Roughing it out.
Oh, okay. I'll try to make this incentivizing for everybody. I hope everybody else is feeling okay. Well, my name is Albert, and I'm going to be talking about AI and blockchain and information systems. The curriculum right now is, oh, I see it's cut off. So what you're missing there is science, information, data, and knowledge, all the way to the left. Then we have technology, information systems, AI and blockchain, which is the core of the research presentation. And then 3 levels of technology, level 1, 2, and 3. Then we'll go ahead and move on to society, policies, government, public, how this can be implemented into a policy infrastructure. And again, hello, my name is Albert. I am so excited to be here. I am super, super excited. I'm very happy to see all of you here. Let's see, you can find a lot of my work at my website, albertfattal.com. And I'm going to start out with a story. A long time ago, I used to work at a factory. I was a machine operator at a factory. And it was a grueling place. In the summers, it gets hot in there. Air conditioning was really non-existent in it. We're in an enclosed area. Machines are running. They're primarily powered by electric motors. And it just gets hot. Literally on par to a sweatshop. And there's a lot of issues. And some of the machines that I would work with are gear metrology machines, as well as precision instruments. They're called microns, Gleasons. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them. If you're not, these are massive, massive machines. This one right over here, it probably goes up to about the ceiling. It's a huge machine. And regardless of the size, it was primarily designed to make something about this big. That machine that took about this entire place. And that's very inefficient, but that's really one of the only ways to do this. And these machines were made during World War II, and they are bulletproof. I mean, it's 2019, and they're still going. And there are some issues with them, right? Right here. This was originally a piece of metal. This one in particular is aluminum. It was a tester. Aluminum is used to test the initial cutting of a gear because it's soft and it won't break. The cutter itself, which is located right over here, and we paint it red to get an idea of where it's going. And these tolerances are very, very precise. I mean, this is a machine that's over 70 years old that's still making highly precise parts. But there were still issues, and the issues were not necessarily in the cutting of the devices, but in the supply chain management system, right? In the infrastructure aspect of the business, small to medium-sized businesses in particular. Larger businesses like Amazon, trillions of dollars they have. They can do a lot, and they can be very precise. Unfortunately, when it comes to smaller companies, small to medium-sized businesses, they are unable to compete with them. So the barriers to entry are very high for that, which allows them to have a very big disadvantage, unfortunately. And going more on that, there's what's called gear metrology. Gear metrology is even more precise, and we have to create really tiny parts that are extremely precise, very precise. And if you see over here, we have the autonomy of a gear. We have what's called tooth to tooth. There's pitch error if a tooth is reverted or gone forward. That will mess the entire process up, right? And in order for this to be as precise as it is, everything that leads up to it has to work perfectly. And that deals with the certificate of conformances. We have to validate that these items are within compliance once they get to the factory itself to be loaded onto the machine. And if any of this is incorrect, or it was fallaciously said as correct or within tolerance but is not, then the entire process is a waste of money and it's an extreme waste of time. And this is where blockchain is going to help out. It's going to validate and certify that everything is within tolerance so that we know for a fact, everybody that's involved in it knows for a fact that it is within tolerance, right? And this is is what it should look like. That's what a factory is. It's exciting. High fives for everybody. That's the goal. So that we need to install this on every single factory. All right, so what's my thesis today? My thesis is two technologies, blockchain and artificial intelligence, have the potential to improve how we handle information. And the point is to decentralize the system so that, as I mentioned earlier with my scenario and example, so that everybody knows exactly what they're receiving, so that there is no issues with either a product or maybe it's farm goods, right? Maybe it's a nuclear goods. I'm going to start out with a quote by Vitalik Buterin, and he's the co-founder of Ethereum, one of the blockchain infrastructures. He says, whereas most technologies tend to automate workers on the periphery doing menial tasks, blockchains automate away the center. Instead of putting the taxi driver out of the job, blockchain puts Uber out of a job and lets the taxi drivers work with the customers directly. And now you're thinking probably, wait a second, isn't that what Uber did with the taxi industry? Completely eliminated the system of the taxis so that Uber itself can decentralize the market, right? What if we take that a step further so that we have more control over this? And that's exactly what blockchain is going to be doing. Now we're going to start out with the technology background. We're going to go through three: science, technology, and society. We'll familiarize ourselves with what blockchain and artificial intelligence is and how it can be applied. Right? So these are tools used to do things efficiently, effectively, and involve know-how. Artificial intelligence and blockchain. Now let's focus on artificial intelligence. It's a lot of times a huge buzzword that you probably began hearing left and right over the past 2 years or so. I remember maybe 3 years ago, it was very rare to hear it as abundantly as it is heard today. In fact, in the past week, I'm sure you've heard it at least one time. Right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Have you guys generally heard the word artificial intelligence often? I mean, it's almost a daily term that's used. So artificial intelligence, it increases human intelligence, and that's one of the key aspects that we need to understand about artificial intelligence, right? It increases human intelligence. It makes life easier by aggregating information, and that's why we love AI so much, and it can be applied into so many different industries. It's a tool used for having high accuracy of predicting future outcomes, and this is a lot of the times where human error comes into play. A lot of the issues are just, unfortunately, human error, pure human error, not intentional. It just happens. Anomalies. Could not predict them. And these human errors can apply to the supply chain management, which is a completely complex system of vendors, of products, of tasks that need to be done in synchronization. If any one of it is unsuccessful, then it can have a chain effect afterwards to completely fail the system. Unfortunately, I'll talk to you about why blockchain can assist that. We have aerospace, failure, fatigue, and reliability. Big issue we had with Boeing recently, the 737 MAX. Huge issue. And if we were to implement blockchain into Boeing's system so that pilots are certified to actually know the system itself, that perhaps could have eliminated that. So the issue was with sensors, right? Sensors were failing on the airplane. And they likely would not have failed if there was a systematic blockchain method that was used for it that can certify the system and notify the entire network that these are not functioning properly. They're not within compliance instantly, using things like IoT, Internet of Things, devices. Then we have big data. This is more on the science aspect, and I'll discuss this a little bit later on, predicting societal or economic shifts. All right, so I'm going to show you a quick video on just exactly how AI can work specifically in supply chain management. have the capacity to do things that just about no human is capable of, particularly due to their endurance and their ability to keep going, and at 24-hour rates. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question, though, students, so don't become too lethargic. I know it's a rough day. let's stay. What did we see from this? And this is not the question that I'm asking you, but and I'll tell you what we saw. Right. So we saw fatigue being eliminated. We saw machines that were. Let's see how we can do this. Uh-oh. So we saw fatigue being eliminated by machines, right? We saw them all the time. We saw them lifting things on their own and then using artificial intelligence to predict where they need to go so that the system is literally as efficient as possible, right? And that's something that humans a lot of the times cannot do. A lot of the times humans will get a little bit lazy. We'll want a break here and there. Nothing wrong with that. We're human. It's in fact necessary. In fact, productivity can decrease if that doesn't occur. So this is the question. What applications have you heard of when you think of blockchain? What are technologies that you hear of or that you know of that is associated with the term blockchain? Yes?
Encryption.
Encryption, fantastic. It's exactly the core of what blockchain is. Anybody else?
Currencies.
Cryptocurrency. That's actually the popular one, and to this day, every single person has always said that. Cryptocurrencies, and that's exactly where I was going at with this. So I'm glad you said that, and that was a great answer because that's the fundamental of what blockchain is all about. So cryptocurrency. This for somebody who researches blockchain and understands how blockchain is going to be implemented into society for policy in the future, we begin to notice that cryptocurrency, which right here, I have a Bitcoin right here, right over here. Let me take it out. I put it in a shell because it's very valuable. Recently, right over here, I barely touch it. I don't want to ruin it, so I looked at the stock market today, and it looks like cryptocurrency is at $5,432 right here in my hand. This doesn't exist. This is not a Bitcoin. There's no such thing as a physical Bitcoin. It's purely electronic. That is not, and I would likely never carry anything with the value of $6,000 casually at the campus. That sounds like a terrible idea. Right. So so as you mentioned, right, a contract, secure contract. Blockchain technology is a digital ledger that records chronologically and publicly. So, Cal Poly. So, what exactly is blockchain, right? It's nothing that's actually physical. Blockchain is a theory, a concept, an idea that really does work, right? So, let's pretend this is the blockchain system right here, and they're connected by chains, right? And remember, it doesn't exist physically. This is a theory, a concept, and an idea. Every block is composed of a highly unique Z, A, pound, every single one by very, very long, unique cryptographic hash. And attempts, and remember, this right here also is right here, its own unique ID. This has its own unique ID. This has its own unique ID. And this chain spans perhaps millions. It keeps going, millions, hundreds, depending on the type of application, right? And if anybody attempts to hack this chain, it renders it inoperable. If somebody hacked a particular block, which could be a system of changing cryptocurrencies. We all know blockchain for cryptocurrencies, right? Somebody hacked this, right? They got into it. They somehow were able to alter the ID, the hash ID. That then involved is notified, so they know. And that's what makes it so secure, is that everybody always knows without any issues. They'll always know when something happens, when there's a hacker. So let's see. Oh, now we'll do another illustration. Can everybody see here? Is this blocking anything? No. Okay. So let's use the supply chain management. Oops. Supply chain management system. As I mentioned earlier, this is could be a very complex system. And if we're talking Amazon, the fact that you could buy something, and if it's Amazon Fresh, it can get to your door. I think it's within hours. I personally haven't tried it, but I heard it's within hours. That is unheard of. That's amazing. How do they do it? They do it with the supply chain, a very efficient, a lean supply chain management, right? So let's say uranium P1 enrichment, right? They're making rods, perhaps for a nuclear power plant. There we go. I don't know why it looks like a house, but this is actually a nuclear power plant. And then this is land. And now in order to, and uranium, high tolerance item, anything happens to it could be disastrous to the land, to the reputation of the company. Very, very difficult, right? So what if you shamed it, right? Here's the truck. Here we go. Again, doesn't look like a truck. Well, yeah, it kind of does actually. That's a truck. But I was hoping for a big rig. So, right, it's got to make its way from point A to point B. Taking uranium from the land and making something useful out of it, which is right over here, this power plant of a house. Somebody seems to have a power plant in their house. Now, this is where the blockchain can begin to be implemented, because I'm sure there are hundreds of thousands of people that could be involved in this, right? What if somebody in the truck went through a huge bump, has IoT sensors, and this is an example from Azure, very great example, went through a bump, somehow damaged the uranium. The end vendor likely doesn't want the uranium anymore. So then that would alert them through its route right here, right there. It'll alert the end vendor that there's now an issue with the uranium. What do you want to do next? You want to bring it back? You want to curate another piece? Likely, if this system is not involved, because of how expensive it is, the original company, may want to completely blow it off as much as possible, because it's too expensive to bring it back, which can cause disastrous problems as well. That's one fantastic application of a high tolerance item that blockchain can be used. All right, straight. And now this is the system right here, and I want you to take notice. You probably can't read the name from here, and it's projected. Let's use this right over here. This is the beauty of the blockchain right here, and it goes through its house. Your orders, invoicing against specific supplier, against specifications, and it's a processing. It is being matched to specifications, and you cannot forge it. If you do, notify it, and the tainted, that we design it. We need to back. We need this. We need to system more efficient. This issue of the blockchain. We're going to talk about artificial intelligence. Level 1, level 2 technology, and this is a book which really opened my mind up to how they are used. Right? So technology levels. This is what it talks about. Technology. These are basic in their core. These are technologies before to something bigger than they are. Like AI technologies alone that are not yet connected to any level things like information systems, business intelligence. Level 1 technologies have about an industry itself is of a level 1 technology. And a level 2 was spur internet. It created systems to network. It created things online. It created network. That's a level 2. The most confusing of them all. but I'm gonna do my best. It deals with economic and economic cause tremendous issues. Global example, what level 3 has done. It's created tremendous issues, almost existential issues with it. And it's hard. No, this is not making a lot of sense. It's very hard to get your mind, very difficult topic to get around. All right, the science back. This is an STM technology society. This is of data science. Science of information. Natural data about mineral composition, where they thrive and humans. They can be aggregated into the science of works. How artificial intelligence aggregating the data, the generation and accumulation, and then this is life begins to have creating something valuable out of accumulating information, work for humanity. I wanted to give you a lollipop for answering, so it's a great flavor. Oh, did he leave? Oh, I'll put it over here afterwards. That's too bad. See, that's what I give him lollipop. I hope he comes. See, reasons for, so it's like reasons in favor.